Elephant in a Safeway Bag by Roderick E. Stevens II. Chapter 1. Grand Canyon. When Mama first set her eyes on the immense Grand Canyon in the spring of 1960, they instantly swelled and glistened, her breath decisively stolen from her. She told her 5-year-old son Red it was the closest they might ever come to feeling Mother Nature's labored breath and sweat. Mama had saved up for a year to take Red to Las Vegas to meet his father. She bought a map of the southwestern United States from the Shell station near their home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and charted out their first road trip west along Route 66 to Kingman, Arizona, then up north across Hoover Dam and into Sin City. Once on the road, a surge of Elvis Presley's early hits kept them company as the country celebrated the King's return from his 2-year stint in the Army. Mama and Red ventured through a timely patchwork of nature, history, and kitsch, past the painted desert, meteor crater, teepee-shaped motels, and Indian curio shops. But as the day lengthened and they approached Flagstaff, Arizona, billboards beckoning motorists to visit the splendorous Grand Canyon captured her attention, and at Williams, she abruptly changed course up Arizona State Route 64 to the famed South Rim. Mama was not a religious person, yet after that improvised detour she could only ever perceive the Grand Canyon's magnificence as an intimate peek at the raw, virginal evidence of nature's work ever in progress. 277 miles long, as much as 18 miles wide, reaching over a mile in depth and carved out over millions of years by the unmerciful Colorado River, it formed an intricate display of Earth's geological history. Yet it was so much more than that, and for Mama, a deeply spiritual awakening occurred on that day. She peeled herself and Red away only when the sky had dimmed and she knew they wouldn't make it to Las Vegas that night. They drove south, back toward Williams, the radio silenced as she contemplated everything, and soon came upon a gathering of Hopi artisans packing up their displays. Wooden tables lined the side of the highway, peppered with trinkets, blankets, and blouses adorned in Hopi maze-like designs in all the colors of the rainbow. They met an elder tribeswoman named Pavati, whose wild gray hair sprayed out from around her striking yet warm brown eyes like sun rays, and her textured dark skin suggested a measure of life beyond Red's comprehension. The woman perceived Mama's heart and proceeded to fill it with history, explaining that centuries before Columbus crossed the waters and changed the world for better or worse, the Hopi, one of the oldest living cultures in documented history, called the Grand Canyon their homeland and named it Ontupka, which Red could never quite pronounce. Pavati, whose name means clear water, described it as a holy place from which their people emerge and to which they return when they've completed their earthly calling. Mama was deeply humbled, but the kind woman reassured her that Ontupka did not belong to the Hopi alone. "We are all the same," Pavati comforted her. "Only the color of our borrowed vessel is different, and when we are done here on earth, Ontupka is a bridge we can all cross into Sipapu." They never made it to Las Vegas. Mama traded the last of her gas money for a loose-fitting cream-colored pullover blouse, edged with angular orange and black spiral patterns, with a multicolored katsina figure of Aholi, a rain-bringer, on the front. As a single mother, living from one beggarly paycheck to the next, moving closer to her heart's geographical anchor seemed improbable, but she vowed to return as often as she could. And they did. Mama loved to paint. She also loved amateur photography, especially after the Polaroid SX70 came out in '72. But if she really wanted to capture the true nature of something, she painted it, and her favorite subject in any medium had become, of course, the Grand Canyon. She saved up for 2 years so they could return, and Mama set up her easel and paints right there on the South Rim, her view consumed by that singular sample of heaven on earth. Afterwards, they stopped to visit Pavati, and she seemed much shorter than Red remembered. The old woman gushed over Mama's painting, still wet with the colors of the canyon, then noticed Red's captivation with a simple 1-foot-tall white-kilted figure of a man with 3 lines on the cheek of its face mask. He was mounted on a round base, posed as if about to run. "That's a Kachina doll," Mama explained. "Katsina," Pavati corrected her. It seems there is no ch sound in the Hopi language, and tourists have been mispronouncing it as Kachina for decades. "Are you a runner?" she asked Red. Red nodded shyly. "This is Lateo, the fox. He is a runner too." He picked up the Katsina doll and turned it in his hand. There was something on the bottom of the base. On closer look, he was reminded of the elven runes he saw on the pages of Tolkien's The Hobbit when Mama read it to him. Haksoan nala hita ang mongvasi mangvu. No one accomplishes something worthwhile alone, Pavati said. Red, who didn't really understand much of what Pavati and Mama talked about, simply thought the peculiar figure would be great for show and tell the following week, where it might even catch the sparkling eyes of Jamie McDonough, his second-grade crush. Mama eagerly offered to trade her painting for the Katsina, and when the old woman said goodbye, Red somehow knew they would not see her again. In April 1964, 9-year-old Red began to notice the bigger world around him. The New York World's Fair opened. Ford launched the Mustang onto an eager America, and the Beatles had most definitely arrived. World events that before seemed distant and detached soaked into him for a variety of reasons. A few months earlier, Mama bought their very first RCA tabletop black and white television as a Christmas present to themselves, and the opening of the New York World's Fair consumed all 3 channels. Later that month, he had an earnest porch rail debate with his father, from whom he inherited the ginger mane that burst out from under his kid-sized cowboy hat. In a discussion about the merits of American automakers, Red proudly proclaimed himself a Ford man, unlike, as he discovered that night, his father, who insisted that Ford was an acronym for Found on Road Dead. Over the years, this discussion stood out to Red, primarily because it was the only one he'd ever had with the man, having just met him an hour earlier. Otherwise, he had a vague recollection of hiding behind the couch while Mama engaged in terse dialogue with his dad on the phone, and tucked into his copy of Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who somewhere in his bedroom was a single photograph of his dad in a U.S. Army uniform. Mama had told Red that she and his father met when she was a WAC, and they were both stationed in Stuttgart, Germany, the affair complicated by his already having a wife and 3 children back home in Las Vegas. Sometimes Mama would look away and squirm a little while elaborating. "He was good at some things," she would say, and then look off and take a deep breath. A few months after their brief entanglement, she was honorably discharged for her growing condition, which of course eventually resulted in Guy Henry Botham, whose raucous copper hair soon led to his being referred to by all who met him as Red.